Support for the Roundup comes from Symphony 3, allowing councils to connect their systems securely, to automate their data flows and to monitor performance in real time. And right now, councils are lining up for their own emergency dashboard, like the one that Symphony 3 has created for the city of Greater Bendigo. The dashboard helps keep the community safe and prepared before, during and after emergencies. It pulls together live data, including weather data, traffic data, emergency incidents, unplanned and planned disruptions, news and social media feeds. Visit www.symphony3.com to learn how you can get an emergency dashboard for your community. Just ahead on the local government news roundup, a council on the brink. A stark warning for Kingston Council. Victorian council workers set to strike for a second time. More concerning revelations as the Parramatta Inquiry continues. A call for clarity over the New South Wales Meeting Code debacle. A finding of bias against a South Australian council after it cut its mayor's term short. And the councillor hit with thousands of dollars in fines for unprofessional conduct. Hello, I'm Chris Eddy, back with more news from and about councils across Australia and beyond on the Local Government News Roundup. Also today,
there's actually been a study into local government financial sustainability on average every 6 months for 50 years.
What's being achieved by it?
Absolutely 2/5 of nothing, just about.
Balranald Shire Council CEO Terry Dodds sounding the alarm on the financial sustainability of rural and regional councils. That's later in this episode. The Roundup is brought to you with the support of our founding sponsor, the Victorian Local Governance Association, the national broadcaster on all things local government. From Symphony 3, simple connected customer experiences, and from Rath Engineering Development, smarter local government systems built from real on-the-ground experience. Welcome along to the podcast. It's Monday the 1st of June and heading our Victorian Roundup today, reports that Kingston Council is on the brink of being put into administration following a dramatic meeting walkout and escalating bullying claims. According to the Herald Sun, last Monday night's meeting was abruptly abandoned after councillors walked out over a disputed social media policy. The disruption prompted a stark warning from state-appointed municipal monitor John Tanner, who cautioned that the municipality faces imminent dismissal if the infighting continues. The chaos follows newly leaked correspondence from mid-2025 detailing deep-seated cultural dysfunction, including toxic public feuds and a Fair Work Commission bullying application. As monitors observe the council's behaviour at an estimated $300,000 cost, the local government minister is said to be watching closely. A private prosecution against two Hepburn Shire figures has been called a nightmare in a Ballarat court. Daylesford businessman David Penman, who is self-represented, is pursuing councillor Don Henderson and CEO Bradley Thomas over allegations council money was used to fund private legal work, including defamation cases benefiting the pair personally. ABC News reported that a magistrate last week said the case was just not ready, with subpoenas still contested and evidence yet to be handed over. The matter returns for a 2-day hearing in August. More than 1,500 Victorian council workers are preparing to strike for a second time as enterprise bargaining negotiations stall across 8 inner-city municipalities. The Herald Sun reported that the Australian Services Union has scheduled a 24-hour stop work action for June 17. It's expected to impact bin collections, library services and road maintenance across the 8 council areas of Melbourne, Darebin, Hume, Merribeck, Yarra, Maribyrnong, Hobsons Bay and Greater Dandenong. A new mayor will be elected at Mornington Peninsula Shire Council this week. The position was vacated by former councillor Anthony Marsh, who was recently elected to State Parliament. Deputy Paul Pinjaro has been acting mayor over recent weeks. A meeting to elect a mayor and, if required, a deputy mayor will be held Tuesday evening at 5:30. Wyndham City Council has issued more than $20,000 in fines after anti-dumping CCTV cameras caught 2 commercial vehicles dumping soil in Melbourne's west. Councils across the country are reporting sharp increases in illegal dumping due to rising landfill fees and tightening budgets. As Yahoo News Australia reported, the issue has already cost the Wyndham community over $2.5 million this financial year alone. Regional councils across Western Victoria are stepping up pressure on the state government ahead of November's election. The Greater Ballarat Alliance of Councils has launched its advocacy platform, demanding the urgent reinstatement of the Country Roads and Bridges program. Alliance leaders warn that ballooning maintenance costs and restricted infrastructure, such as the load-limited Bridge 5 in Pyrenees Shire, are forcing heavy freight into costly detours and placing an unsustainable financial strain on local government budgets. Monash Council has announced it will cease providing direct in-home aged care services by the end of June next year. The decision follows major national aged care reforms designed to give older residents greater choice through specialist providers. Monash Mayor Stuart James said the council is not best placed to deliver the scaling services required under the new framework. While direct service delivery will phase out, the council says it remains committed to supporting older residents through ongoing advocacy, information services and community programming. And fuel and supply pressures are set to push up household waste charges in Loddon Shire. The council says the curbside collection contract has been hit by rising costs, with an extra $192,000 allowed in next year's budget to cover higher fuel prices. The waste service charge is expected to rise by 15%. Mayor Dan Straub said the fee sits outside the rate cap and is a necessary cost recovery measure. Also making news, Greater Shepparton City Council has voted to delay the consolidation of its Nancy Vibert Children's Centre, pushing the timeline back to the end of 2027. Mayor Shane Sarley says while the facility is no longer fit for purpose, the 12-month extension will give families greater clarity during the transition. In Melbourne's southeast, a major milestone for the revitalising Central Dandenong project, with Stage 1 of Capital Alliance's $600 million precinct development receiving planning approval. The Thomas Street site will deliver new apartments, childcare facilities and retail spaces. Greater Dandenong Council says the broader project is expected to support up to 5,000 ongoing jobs. And Cold Lake Otway Shire Council has endorsed a new public art project after a competitive 12-week expression of interest process attracted 20 submissions, ranging from murals to sculptures. A preferred artist will now work with the council to finalise a design, with delivery expected before year's end. This is the Local Government News Roundup, brought to you with the ongoing support of our founding sponsor, the VLGA, which has developed its Year 2 Councillor Professional Development Program with councillor needs, cost and time efficiency front of mind. In Year 2, the VLGA is offering a range of delivery methods, including fast-paced 1-hour online modules to more intensive half-day sessions that enable participants to do a deep dive into aspects of the councillor role. If you want someone to do the thinking for you and design a program that responds directly to the unique needs of your council, that is delivered in a way that suits you, contact the VLGA today. You can view the full Year 2 Councillor Professional Development Prospectus on the VLGA website. New South Wales corruption watchdog ICAC has heard City of Parramatta Council CEO Gail Connolly helped a friend polish their resume, sent interview questions in advance via a Pink Ladies group chat, and then sat on the interview panel. The friend was later hired as a senior executive. Claims that recruitment processes were subverted to benefit friends and associates are among the allegations under investigation by ICAC's Operation Navara. The Sydney Morning Herald has continued reporting daily as the inquiry continues. Local Government New South Wales is urging the state government to issue clear, workable guidance on council meeting rules after the Legislative Council disallowed the new model code last week. Sector leaders say the code's bans on private briefings and audiovisual attendance created major problems, especially for remote councillors. They're calling for fast consultative changes to restore certainty for councils statewide. Yass Valley was one council to move swiftly to rescind its resolution adopting the 2025 model meeting code, reinstating the council's previously adopted Code of Meeting Practice at its meeting last week. Bayside Council has unanimously backed a proposal from its mayor to create 3 memorials for local victims of the December 2025 Bondi massacre. The tributes would honour Peter Marzo-Mar, Matilda Britvan and Dan El-Kayem, with options including memorial benches, plaques and naming a playground. Mayor Edward McDougall said the tragedy has deeply impacted the community and renewed the call to stand up for multicultural Australia and against the hijacking of our shared humanity. Glen Innes Severn Council is awaiting an imminent decision on its special rate variation application as it moves to tackle long-term structural deficits. Mayor Margot Davis has warned that despite recent improvements to financial reporting, the authority's unrestricted cash trajectory continues to decline. As the New England Times reported earlier this month, the council's draft operational budget relies on the approval of the rate hike to bridge its funding gap. Mayor Davis says further decisive action is required to balance service delivery costs ahead of a critical budget meeting this month. Parks Shire Council has intensified its campaign against a proposed local energy from waste facility. At its latest meeting, the council formally endorsed an opposition action plan to coordinate advocacy and communication alongside neighbouring local authorities. Furthermore, a new community working party is being established under the Local Government Act to ensure resident voices directly inform council strategy. Expressions of interest for community representatives will open in the coming weeks. The appointment of a new general manager at Gwydir Shire Council appears imminent. The council will hold an extraordinary meeting in Bingara this morning, Monday morning, to finalise the recruitment and appointment of the council's new general manager. Final discussions and candidate reviews will be held behind closed doors in a confidential committee session. The Western Council's Water Alliance has welcomed new New South Wales Government funding to boost regional water and sewer services. A $450,000 commitment will support pilot programs, testing new ways councils can work together on reliability, drought resilience and long-term infrastructure planning. Brad Cam, General Manager of Host Council Midwestern, says the funding is a positive step for collaboration across regional New South Wales. Heavy swells have severely eroded Byron Shire beaches, with New Brighton and Suffolk Park the hardest hit. Council crews are closing damaged steep access paths and clearing old car tyres washed out of the dunes. Beachgoers are urged to avoid walking near unstable dune faces. At Narrabri, Shire Council has welcomed the reinstatement of 3 vital regional mastheads. Following an acquisition by the Times News Group, the Narrabri Courier, the Weewa News and Gunnedah Times will return to print. Mayor Darryl Tiemans praised the move, noting that independent on-the-ground journalism is essential for keeping regional communities engaged and connected to local government initiatives. Also in the news, electric vehicle ownership is surging across Sydney's northern beaches. The council says nearly 3,000 new battery and plug-in hybrid vehicles were registered locally in the past 12 months. That's a 68% jump. Rising fuel prices and lower running costs are driving the switch, with more charging options rolling out. Walgett Shire Council is rolling out a new corporate logo across its materials, saying the design better reflects the region's landscape, communities and local character. The logo features elements representing sun, water, land and black opal. Council says the change will happen gradually, so the previous logo will still appear on some signage and documents for a time. And still to come today on the Local Government News Roundup.
The challenge or the problem of fixing them is a greater problem than kicking the can down the road, because local government's dying a death of 1,000 cuts.
Balranald Shire Council CEO Terry Dodds, PSM, is here in just a bit, talking about what he thinks is needed to fix the problems of local government. Stay tuned, that's coming up soon. Now, for more news from around the country, Redland City Council in Queensland has voted to fold Redland Investment Corporation operations into the council's major projects group, aiming to streamline delivery and cut overheads. Acting Mayor Julie Talty says the move will improve efficiency and help ease pressure on rates amid cost of living concerns. The council says planning is underway for the integration, with no expected disruptions to projects or stakeholders during the transition. Logan City Council is seeking changes to how rare and extreme floods are mapped following an independent review into the Logan and Albert Rivers flood study. Mayor John Raven announced plans to meet with the state government to request the removal of worst-case scenarios, such as the probable maximum flood, from public planning maps. While the review confirmed the study met national standards, it noted that including these rare events in standard mapping has caused impractical community alarm, though they will remain vital for emergency planning. Colder weather in Townsville is paving the way for repairs at Burdell's Northern Beaches Leisure Centre after vandals damaged tiles in the 50-metre pool. Council says work start today and will run about 3 weeks, with the pool drained and expansion joints also replaced. Other pools and facilities are expected to remain open where possible. Moreton Bay City Council is considering moving its headquarters from Strathpine to the Moreton Bay Central Precinct at Petrie. A spokesperson says concept designs and site selection are underway, but no investment decision has been made. The Strathpine Chambers and Administration buildings are expected to reach end of life by 2030. Goondiwindi Regional Council has extended its residential building fee waiver for another year, covering eligible applications lodged until June 30, 2027. The incentive waives building application fees and certain water, plumbing and drainage charges, worth around $5,000 for a standard home and more for multi-dwelling projects. The offer excludes short-term and temporary accommodation, according to Moree Online News. In Tasmania, Hobart Greens councillor Bill Harvey has announced he'll run for Lord Mayor at Tasmania's local government elections later this year, pledging to stamp out what he calls toxic behaviour on the council. Harvey says bickering is turning people away from public office and wants all candidates to back the local government association's Lift the Tone campaign. The Mercury reported that the Greens have also unveiled candidates for mayor and deputy mayor positions across several other Tasmanian councils, including Clarence, Kingborough and Huon Valley councils. An independent legal review has found that a decision by Northern Areas Council in South Australia to cut former Mayor Sue Scarman's term short was biased and flawed. Adelaide Now reported the investigation identified apprehended bias, noting the decision was made public before councillors or the community could view Ms Scarman's written defence. The report recommends the council vacate the mayoral office and call for fresh nominations. A special council meeting will be held on Tuesday to vote on those recommendations. Mitcham councillor and solicitor Darren Cruz has been hit with $15,000 in fines following 5 separate findings of unsatisfactory professional conduct. The Advertiser reported that the Legal Profession Conduct Commissioner issued the penalties and ordered reprimands over a series of client management and documentation failures. The disciplinary action comes alongside recommendations from the Ombudsman, Emily Strickland, for the council to reprimand Councillor Cruz for repeatedly failing to respond to a separate local government watchdog investigation. The financial watchdog has declared the Berry-Barmera Council financially unsustainable. Adelaide Now reported that ESCOSA regulators have criticised the local authority's past financial performance and asset management. To address operating deficits compounded by the 2022 River Murray floods, the council has proposed an 8.8% rate increase this year, alongside overhauls to community rate rebates. In Western Australia, the town of Port Hedland says a council seat is now officially vacant after councillor-elect Adrian McRae failed to lodge a required declaration of office within the legal 2-month deadline. The vacancy will now be offered to the first backfill candidate, Gemma Scott, with George de Cachet next in line. The town said on Saturday that it's beginning the process of contacting the candidates to fill the role. Roller shutters are now effectively banned in heritage-protected parts of 3 City of Stirling suburbs, Mount Lawley, Menora and Inglewood, after councillors voted 14-1 to tighten planning rules. According to Perth Now, the council says shutters can detract from heritage character and damage original masonry. Shutters not visible from the street may still be considered by development application, and existing approved shutters won't need to be removed. The City of Albany has bestowed its highest civic honour on former Mayor Dennis Wellington, naming him an honorary Freeman of the City, recognising his 23 years of council service, including 12 years as Mayor until 2023. And the City of Coburn Mayor Logan Howlett has been awarded the Order of Red Hrvatskog Platara by the President of the Republic of Croatia. The prestigious honour recognises Mayor Howlett's long-standing dedication to fostering cultural and civic ties with Croatia, including the city's 28-year sister city relationship with Split. Now for some news from overseas, and local government unions in England have firmly rejected the National Employers' 3.3% pay offer for council staff, calling instead for urgent, meaningful negotiations. Unison, Unite and the GMB say the offer doesn't make up for years of real-term pay losses and remains well below what workers need and deserve. Newcastle under Lyme Borough Council, led by Reform UK, says it will withdraw from the Local Government Association. The council claims it could save up to £17,000 a year in fees and costs. Essex County Council's new Reform UK leadership says it will scrap all net zero strategies, with leader Peter Harris calling climate policies net stupid zero and nuts. Opposition Conservatives have urged an open-minded approach, according to BBC News, warning changes must still be practical and protect residents' costs. Lambeth Council in South London is considering scrapping its leader and cabinet system and returning to committee-style decision-making after the borough fell into no overall control at last month's elections. An extraordinary meeting on the 1st of June will discuss governance and appointments, though recent government legislation could make any switch harder. And a West Yorkshire MP has demanded action from Reform UK leader Nigel Farage over deeply troubling social media posts by the newly elected leader of Bradford Council, Stephen Place. Labor MP Anna Dixon claims the now deleted posts contain sexually explicit material and religious discrimination. Councillor Place has declined to comment, according to BBC News. Now to the US, where New York City Council is moving to ban so-called surveillance pricing, the practice of using your personal data to charge you more at the checkout. Two new bills introduced in recent weeks would prohibit retailers from setting individualised prices based on customer data and stop grocery stores from changing prices more than once every 24 hours. If passed, New York would become the first city in the US with such protections, part of a growing push at the state and federal level to rein in algorithm-driven pricing. A major highway project in Charlotte, North Carolina is dead, at least for now, according to local NPR station WFAE. Elected members have voted to pull support for a plan to add toll lanes to Interstate 77, ending years of planning on one of the city's most congested corridors. Council member Renee Johnson, who introduced the motion, said simply, "The people have spoken." The decision leaves Charlotte back at square one on how to address growing traffic pressure on the busy interstate. Calgary City Council in Canada has voted to scrap its 2021 climate emergency declaration, saying it's time to focus on practical action over symbolism. The motion passed 10-5, with supporters calling the declaration performative, while opponents warn it sends the wrong message and carries reputational risk. And animal lovers in Dawson's Creek, British Columbia are raising alarms after the City Council voted to end all animal control services. CBC News says the city will terminate its contract with the South Peace SPCA on December 1st, ending stray animal pickup, noise complaint response and dog licensing. Officials cite roughly $300,000 in annual savings, while the SPCA warns of a major gap in services. And that's all the news for this episode of the Roundup. You can find out more by heading to our website, lgnewsroundup.com, where you'll find a transcript with all the story links. But stay with us, it's time for a special Roundup Extra. Coming up next, my special guest, Terry Dodds. Well, if you follow Terry Dodds, PSM, on LinkedIn, you'll have noticed a thought-provoking piece that he published recently about the sustainability of local government, particularly in Western New South Wales. Terry's been on the show before, so I think he comes in under the heading of Friend of the Pod, and he's back for a chat. Hello, Terry. How are you?
Hello, Chris. Good, thanks.
Good to see you again and to chat with you. Since we last spoke, you've been to Queensland and back. Now tell me, what's the inside goss? What's going on there?
Well, very, very exciting news for Balranald Shire. Last Monday week, after 9 years of having performance improvement orders hanging over Council's head, the last 7 orders were lifted in one go.
Wow.
So Council's been given a clean bill of health. I'm very happy with that. The amount of work behind the scenes by a lot of people over a long period of time, including myself for the last 8. We had over 50, I think there was about 53 performance improvement orders. One lot were given to Council in 2017 and another 16 in 2024. So various people have been whittling them down, but it was such a relief and so nice to read a letter from Minister Honing lifting the last 7 PIOs off Council last Monday week, Chris. So that's the goss. That's what everyone was very happy about for the last couple of weeks. But now it's on to the next challenge.
So you went to Livingston for a bit, and I thought the word was you were going to retire. But was it this Balranald challenge that kept you in the sector for a bit longer?
Yes, I went back to Tenterfield, had 2.5 months off. After I'd been there about a month and a half, I started looking in the local government job directory and on Seek and other places, and before I knew it, I'm back in the saddle again.
Well, you just can't keep a good man down, can you? And of course, now you're trying to pique some interest in these bigger issues, these sustainability issues for local government. You're not the first to raise concerns about this, but perhaps what you've done a little bit differently here is focused beyond those short-term balance sheet issues and talk more about structural and geographic realities. What are you hoping to achieve with this piece of work?
The governance model, the funding model, and the tyranny of distance don't all match. When I've read, look, I have got a life, Chris. There's been 60 reviews, investigations, audits, academic papers, think tanks. There's been 60 since 1976 and 50 of those since 2001. There's actually been a study, somewhere in the country has done a study into local government financial sustainability on average every 6 months for 50 years. That is a phenomenal statistic.
It is. And where is all that work going? What's being achieved by it?
Absolutely 2/5 of nothing, just about.
Yeah. Look, this is echoing some comments made out of South Australia in the past couple of weeks. One mayor in particular there has said he's not standing because he's giving up. These issues have been around for a long time, as you say, and there doesn't seem to be an appetite to fix them. Would you agree with that?
The challenge or the problem of fixing them is a greater problem than kicking the can down the road, because local government's dying a death of 1,000 cuts. It's not driving off a cliff. It isn't being hit by an avalanche. It hasn't had a drone land on it and blown it up. Because it's incremental over a long period of time, the challenge to fix it is not going to be incremental. It's going to have to be fixed pretty soon, actually, because there's about 77 councils out of 128 that aren't looking so flash cumulatively on their balance sheet with their general funds. There's 11 that are in real big trouble in New South Wales, and I won't name them, but I know who they are. And the challenge is it's such a big thing, and in the past, governments of all persuasions have used a cookie-cutter approach, where the one approach has been multiplied over the whole state. And I'll give listeners an example, Chris. I worked in a council many years ago, 13 years ago, where it took me 3 hours and 45 minutes to drive to my furthest depot over 2 mountain ranges, and most of it was dirt road. And when you got there, which was very late in the morning normally because you couldn't leave early because of the ruse, you did your business and you couldn't get back because of the ruse in the afternoon. So council actually had to buy a house and turn it into a dormitory because the tyranny of distance got us. And one day I did 613 Ks without driving out of the Shire.
Goodness. Yeah.
So the approach in 2016 was to amalgamate a lot of councils, and putting 3 broke councils into one big council just means you've got a bigger problem, not 3 little ones. Other things that have come out of investigations in the past have normally meant that local government carries all the heavy lifting. And I'll give an example. One of them is just to keep the bastards honest, Let's do benchmarking and compare one council against the other.
Yeah.
Let's do the integrated planning and reporting framework and promise the constituents things that we know we can't afford to deliver, because everyone, when they do a CSP once every term, asks for everything, doesn't want to pay any more, of course, and then you artificially raise the community expectations up and then spend the next 4 years chasing your tail. Competitive grants is another one. And we don't know from one year to the other what money we're getting, so you can't do forward planning, you can't settle your staff. You then have to rely on contractors coming backwards and forwards, which normally cost about 40% more. Another thing that came out of it in New South Wales, and I suspect it was a de facto situation because the amalgamations maybe in the government eyes might not have gone far enough, particularly in metro areas. Joint organisations were going to be the new silver bullet, almost forcing us into a shared service model. But with the joint organisations, then they pushed upon all the JOs that they have to have an external audit group, which meant even for small ones, you might have been spending another 50 or 80K on auditing joint organisation expenditure. And that expenditure was often less than what a manager level 3 was in a regional council.
Yeah.
So far, all the reforms that have come in, local government has copped the load and the state and federal government haven't. So what I did, I don't know, I should get a better life perhaps. I went and reviewed the 11 councils west of the Newell basically, and except for Broken Hill, which is flatlining, 10 out of the 11 councils' general funds are going down at a ratio of about 1-to-1 over the last 2 or 3 years. And you would have seen that in my paper. And I thought, well, geez, if this keeps going, we're going to be in trouble quicker than what maybe the government thinks.
Yeah. You say in your paper quite memorably that, and you've just sort of alluded to it, geography does not amalgamate. And we're seeing, and you made a comment that perhaps the government thought the amalgamations didn't go far enough, but we're seeing some councils trying to unpick that and go down the de-amalgamation path. Is that the answer, though?
Look, one of the big things about amalgamations is no different with football clubs or netball clubs or service clubs like Apex or Rotary or Lions or one of those. There's a thing that all CEOs and GMs in local government talk about. I don't know how much the public would know about it, but they're called communities of interest. And when you get a community of interest and put it with another community that is not of interest, such as Cootamundra and Gundagai, which is going through the de-amalgamation process at the moment in New South Wales, it's a wedding, a forced wedding where both the bride and groom don't want to be together. So naturally, that's going to cause social unrest. And look, the amalgamations were in 2016, we're in 2026, and it's still causing a problem in Cootamundra and Gundagai.
Yeah. And Snowy Valleys is going down the path too, I believe, at the moment as well. So, look, there's a lot of detail in the paper, and you talk about workforce risks and the difficulties of finding qualified people, particularly in those more remote areas. But what about answers here? You've suggested this differentiated governance model. What does that actually mean?
Well, I'll give you an example. And I'm not going to mention their name, but it's pretty easy to find out. There's a council in Sydney that's got a budget of $1 billion. So $1,000 million, big budget. Actually, it's a little bit more than that. I think it's about 1.03. Maybe
it is, and we've reported it here on the Roundup. That's Blacktown City Council.
Yes.
Massive.
So I can understand them having to have a super duper robust governance process and probably a whole team of people that are doing a lot of things, because the expenditure per day would be unbelievable. The expenditure of us here with less than $50 million, we've still got to have some processes, but we still report using exactly the same frameworks month in, month out as councils that spend 20 times more than us. We've still got an internal and an external audit. We've still got the IP&R framework. We've still got the cumulative effect of reporting yearly on your operational plan and your delivery program. We've still got the same amount of overheads on a pro rata basis as the other councils. But our population has to sustain those overheads at a greater percentage per head than what a council does that's got, 500,000 or 400,000 ratepayers here. So our rate per unit, with only a population of 23 or 2,400 in 22,000 square kilometres, which, by the way, Chris, Balranald Shire Council is bigger in area than 63 countries.
Wow, that's
38
extraordinary.
63 countries. And we've got 2,300 people living in an area that's bigger than 38.1% of the world's governments.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
you tell me whether or not you'd need to be a road scholar to work out that you need to have different governance and different management functions to manage a council that's bigger than 63 countries in area.
Yeah. The staggering statistics there, and there's more of those gems in the paper, and obviously we're not going to be able to reproduce all of that in this short conversation. But can I just sort of bring this home, Terry, and ask you what's going to happen if this doesn't get addressed? You're saying it's urgent, really, really soon.
It is really urgent. And sadly, Chris, the Local Government New South Wales, the Australian Local Government Association, New South Wales Country Mayors, and all the other state associations have been working to try and get the federal assistance grants raised up to 1% of taxation revenue for years, and they've done some good work on it. And what happens this year? It goes down 0.2%.
Yeah.
So the government's not listening. Now, the challenge local government's got, and this is the trick, and I'm just writing a project management plan about how to do this, and I'm up to page 29. It's pretty complex. The hardest thing we've got, and we're sort of in a bit of a conundrum, of the 11 councils that I've looked at, their average sponsorship by the state and federal government in grants is 59.5% of their income. So how do you say to a government that, and by the way, including federal state subsidies and grants to local government, the ratio of gross domestic produce to the cost to the state and federal government, the cost of the state and federal government's 8.6%. So the dividend is more than 10 to 1.
Yeah.
The argument that, we don't want to put money in the bush because, all they do is suck money out of us. For every dollar that of the state and federal government put into the bush, and that's federal government services, state government services, and local government grants, they get $9 back as a country in GDP. So how do you go to a government and say they're not supporting local government when 59.5% of the income is via grants on average across those 11 councils?
Yeah.
Without upsetting them.
Yes. Well, that's where the political element always comes in, isn't it? And the political will to actually tackle some of these problems is often not there.
Yeah. And look, I can understand that too, because it's very hard to convince the public that they're getting more than a 10 to 1 dividend on investment in the councils west of the Newell Highway when all they see is the grants getting rolled out.
Yeah.
But the GDP for those 11 councils is $4.1 billion clear. That's enormous.
It is.
So anyway, that's what I'm working on at the moment, Chris. How to coerce the government into understanding that it's an investment, not a rod around their neck.
Have you got a sense that anyone's listening to what you're saying?
Yes and no. There's a lot of individuals, because I'm old now, and I started in local government in 1982, which seems like 5,000 years ago now. I know a lot of people, and every single one of those that have read my paper have given me the thumbs up, and there's a lot of people in a lot of influential places. But there's only really one thing I can do at a time myself, because I am trying to run the council at the same time as do all this extracurricular stuff, and I do need to get a life.
Indeed.
So what I'm hoping to happen, and I've got a lot of support from the Riverina and Murray Joint Organisation. They unanimously resolved last Friday to write to the Minister and suggest that I be on his expert advisory panel. Same with the Western Division of Councils. Same with half a dozen mayors around New South Wales who I've worked with or I've known for 10, 20 or 30 years. But at the end of the day, it won't be one person that changes anything.
Yeah.
It will be probably a combination of 3 or 4 joint organisations together to force the issue, because the problem is so hard to fix and it needs to be bespoke for different areas. And based on history, the government will only do a cookie cutter approach, one paper or one law to cover the whole of the 91 councils in regional New South Wales. And that's what I'm afraid of, because the cookie cutter response hasn't worked in the past. So my fingers are crossed, and I'm hoping that the Western Division of Councils and a few councils that are up and down the Newell, and there's even some even further east than that are in trouble and heading for disaster as well, Chris. I'm hoping that because the government is a guarantor for local government, because local government's not recognising the Constitution, that they realise they can't let it fall over. Because if local government falls over and they've got to come to the party, it may affect other fiscal drivers within government as well.
It no doubt would. And well done for being a leading voice on this. I do hope somebody's listening and you get appointed to that panel, because as I understand, there's nobody west of the Newell on that panel at the moment, correct?
Yeah, there's Mayor Phyllis Miller OAM at Forbes, and the Newell goes through Forbes. There's a CEO from Redland, which I think's just east of the Newell. I'm not 100% sure. It might be on the Newell. But my definition of Western councils is you've got to have red dirt and goats.
Right. Okay.
If you haven't got red dirt and you've got massive irrigation cropping, if you haven't got red dirt, you're not in the West.
All right, let's finish on red dirt and goats. We'll pop a link to your discussion paper that you've posted on LinkedIn in the show notes if people want to dig into that. Always a pleasure to talk, Terry. Thanks for your always frank assessment, and good luck with the change that you're trying to be part of bringing about.
Thanks, Chris.
You've been listening to the Local Government News Roundup, episode number 589, recorded on the morning of Monday, the 1st of June, 2026. If you'd like to know more about this episode, you can head to our website, lgnewsroundup.com, where you'll find all the story links and breaking news between episodes of the podcast, which are brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, the national broadcaster on all things local government, with support from Symphony 3, simple, connected customer experiences, and Rath Engineering Development, smarter local government systems built from real on-the-ground experience. The podcast is recorded in the city of Greater Geelong, Victoria, on the land of the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation. Always great to have you listening wherever you are across Australia or around the world, and I hope you'll join us again soon. Until next time, bye for now. Support for the Local Government News Roundup comes from Rath Engineering Development, smarter systems for local government, like Red GMS, helping councils manage gravel pits and projects, track quality, test results, blending options and haulage, and know the true cost per tonne from day one. Rath Engineering Development can give you a one-off report that uses your existing pit data to pinpoint the best gravel sources for your next resheeting program or disaster restoration works, saving your council time and money. For local government systems built from real on-the-ground experience, talk to the team at Rath Engineering Development. Head to rathed.com.au to find out more.